The Treasure is the newest film by Romanian director Corneliu Porumboiu, director of 1208 East of Bucharest, for which he won the award for Best Debut at the Cannes International Film Festival almost a decade ago. As with most of his films, the plot might seem pretty straightforward at first glance, and to a major extent I believe it is. However, that straightforwardness never undermines the subtle allegory lying underneath each of his films. The film is about two guys, one of them a family man who really cares for his son but might not be as equally as loving in his marriage, and the other being one of his neighbors desperately in need of some cash, who one day makes him an intriguing proposition: help him find and dig up the treasure rumored to be buried somewhere in the backyard of his family's country house, and if they prove successful, and if there actually is any treasure to be found at all, they can split the profits, 50-50. However, this proves not to be an easy task, as there are strict laws to be followed in Romania when finding anything that can be considered cultural heritage, the film implying that you have to give as much as 70% of the value of what you find to the state. This director has done it again. I felt like he again managed to succeed in remaining in his signature style while also doing something that feels fresh. As a matter of fact, the storytelling aspect and the visual language he uses I felt could actually be traced back to his earlier films. As the story went along, I was again reminded of East of Bucharest, where somewhere between the first and second act, everything about the way the story is being told, visually at least, changes. In East of Bucharest, we go from wider shots of middle-class apartments to more tighter ones in a crummy TV studio, focused a lot of times on one character at a time. Here it is exactly the opposite, from the traditional way you would film a conversation, by putting a camera on each of the characters in opposing angles when they are inside, to wider shots of an open space encapsulating several characters at a time, occasionally panning left or right, following one or the other. The subject matter of Porumboiu's films always fascinated me. He has said that he considers this country to have been always kind of in between, not completely marginal, and not completely in the center of the major superpowers surrounding us either, with being Central Europe and Russia. And therefore he feels that while this country's roots lie here, his search is also anchored in this type of culture and marginal characters. You know, the average person who doesn't have much and occasionally wants to bite off more than he can chew. After a while, it turns into a very suspenseful little story about one thing leading to another. You know, one guy convincing someone else, then that guy influencing another guy, whether they are going to find anything at all, whether it will be anything of value, whether they are going to get caught if they do. For a film that takes place mostly in the backyard of a shitty house, I found myself to be quite on the edge of my seat throughout this thing. And I have to give high praise for the acting, which feels very natural and effortless. The performances feel very loose. I think these actors were really able to detach themselves from the script, and to not make their characters feel like they are tightly and firmly fixed into place. Really do what they felt right, and not just follow a simple pattern. The sequence with the free man searching for the treasure is especially noteworthy, with the tension rising, accusations being thrown left and right, and tying into Romanian history of the communist period. This film works perfectly as a very simple allegory, and you cannot imagine how glad I was to hear Life is Life from Laibach during the end credits. That's one of my favorite bands of all time, and I think that song especially explains perfectly the very ironic but also very critical nature of this film. I loved this movie. I think I pretty much loved everything about it. The context is very Romanian, but at the same time I think it's also a story everyone could relate to. So be sure to check it out. Thanks for watching. As always, I will see you later with other reviews. Take care, folks.